Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm back in the Maktabah after a short while, and this time I'm honored to have who I consider a very special guest in terms of one of the eldest du'at that's been given dawah in the UK for a very long time before I even became Muslim. I'm honored to have none other than Shaykh Abu Usamah with me. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakallahu for coming. And he's taken the time out to come down just for this as one of the last shows you're going to do before you travel.
The absolute last one, inshallah.
Inshallah.
3 more days to be here, and this is it.
And that's it. You're going to leave us.
Yeah, I kept saying, this is the last one, that's the last one, this is the last one. But people would ask me, and I thought it was appropriate to go to each one. And now this is the last one. And the appropriate nature of this one, inshallah, is the fact that it's only fitting that this is the last one because it's where I started here in the UK. Brixton, baby.
Brixton, that's it, man. The oldest Salafi community in the UK.
That's right.
Even though there might be some people that will say otherwise, then...
We thank Allah for that opportunity, being a part of that history.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thank Allah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, there's one thing that even stands out for me, myself personally, when I became Muslim, one of the most important aspects, and I was grateful for, is that the community that I actually joined was Brixton, and they were bringing over scholars, and they were introducing us to conferences, Return to Ilm. I don't know if you remember that name. Coming Back to Knowledge, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. The scholars from Jordan, the scholars from the Mamlaka. But anyway, that's a long story. Before we get there.
If you would allow me, Abdul, I have to say this just on the tails of what you just said. I don't really remember you personally from, being on the ground back in those times at all. I may not have been in this country, but I will say this at the beginning of this podcast. I have a lot of love for you, brother. You're from the brothers in this country that I have a lot of love for. If you remember, we did that program in Newcastle.
Yeah. And
we shared the platform. I always, before that moment, saw you as a real Muntawi and quiet cat back in the cut. Didn't have much to say. Real cool, like a cucumber, like the other side of the pillow. You was always real quiet. And I appreciate the fact that although that was your nature, you've been given dawah, and I saw your personality grow and sprout and develop. And then when we were in Newcastle and we got to know each other, I said, this is my man. When I started finding out more and more about you from your own mouth. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that to you. And my du'as to Allah Azza wa Jalla is that He gives you thabat and divinely protects you and those who are near and dear to you. All right, homie?
Appreciate it. Jazakallah, and that means so much. Let's get to it. Abu Usamah At-Thahabi. We will speak about you before you became Abu Usamah. Tell us about your kind of, beginnings in terms of where you're from. How did you enter into Islam? Give us a little bit of background.
Very, very quickly, because it's a long story. I remember in the Shu'bah we learned that method. Al-Kalam dhu shujun. Kalam just keeps going on. There's a lot to say. I used to not tell people what my name was in Jahiliyyah. And I used to joke with them. They would say, what was your name? I said, if I told you, I have to kill you. And for a million years, I did that. Until one of the brothers who sees himself as my enemy, he was being sarcastic, and on the internet, he found out what my name was, and he was putting it all over the internet as if that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
My name was Frankie Bernard Lipscomb.
Yeah.
They used to call me Frankie Knuckles. For real, for real.
Frankie Knuckles?
Yeah, because I used to fight a lot. And I'm not glorifying that, but that's what it was. Frankie Bernard Lipscomb.
Yeah.
I used to hate that last name, Lipscomb. I used to say maybe the slave master of my forefathers just saw one of my forefathers with big lips and he had a comb in his head and he'd say, yo, Lipscomb. I used to say that after a while. So I was born in Passaic, New Jersey, the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. And I come from a family of 2 sisters who are older than me, 1 brother who was younger than me, and he died from sickle cell, and 2 fabulous parents. My mother, my Ma Dukes, Mamie Starr, and my father, who both are still together right now.
Alhamdulillah.
And
guide them to Islam if they're not already Muslim.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Grew up in a very poor condition. So poor. We used to just call it po. We couldn't afford the other O and R. You said we was just poor. I'm serious, AbdulWahid. But I was in the projects, not the projects, the projects, man. It was rough, but I thank Allah for it. You know why? Because it made me part of who I am today. There was a lot of negativity coupled with that. That's why we shouldn't want to grow our children up in bad environments. That's our religion. But I think the more drama people have in their lives, the stronger you become. As my mother always says, if it doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger, inshallah. So I was in an environment that was really rough when I grew up, not paying attention to education, you know, all of the usual stuff that you get in the ghetto, like in Brixton and other places. The deck was stacked against us.
It's an ex-ghetto now, though. Brixton's, they've changed it a little bit, but it's still, you still got your...
I came and I visited you a few months ago, and I hadn't been to Brixton in a long time. And I saw the gentrification. Although it was the summertime, I had that Brixton vibe. It was nice, but I was pleasantly surprised, man, how things have changed. And I don't think it's as bad as it was when I was here, but there's still some issues here in Brixton.
I always make that disclaimer because students think, if their parents, they say their parents, I want to go to a college in Brixton. You can imagine their parents, you're not going to Brixton. That's the, you know, it's dangerous there. You're going to get robbed and I'm like, well, look, it's not like that, man. Brixton is a bit posh. It's okay. So I always make that clarification to everyone. So try to show Brixton in a positive light. But going back to how you're not born Muslim, obviously, but you became Muslim. How did that happen? How did you become Muslim? What was your journey?
After my fitrah was changed and altered, polluted by my parents, I was growing and I wanted something else. Hip hop had just started. I wasn't deep into hip hop. I was more into jazz because some of the old heads that were teaching me, they were into alternative religions from Africa. So they were exposing me to jazz and things like that. Quite naturally, you're going to hear R&B, things like that, way from back in the day. But I just didn't believe in the white Jesus thing. I didn't believe in that. I saw what it had did to my community, to my aunties, my mother, you know, waiting for this pie in the sky and the afterlife while, you know, we're getting hell right here on earth. I just wasn't down with that. I used to like Malcolm X. I didn't like that, you know, stuff that Martin Luther King was talking. Turn the other cheek and all of that. So in our community, the Nation of Islam, they had some remnants. They still had people who I grew up knowing he's a black Muslim or Muslim or Muslim. I used to go and listen to them on Sundays, but that stuff just didn't resonate with me. I used to sit there and laugh with my brother. And sometimes the minister would look at me with a look and, you know, they were kind of militant. But I would laugh because it was just ridiculous to me what they were saying. Allah has a mother, her name is Baby G, and some spaceship is going. I just say, what? And I just wasn't going for that stuff. So I wanted something else. I just didn't want that Christianity. Then I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was 16 years old. And that was the spark that turned the light on for me, because I realized from his life, there is a real definition of Islam. These people are Sunni Muslims who are traditional Muslims. And that's what made me want to be a real Muslim.
On what age did you actually decide to become Muslim?
I was about 21 years old. 21. I got into trouble. It was the summertime. I was real heavy into drugs and those psychedelic mind-altering drugs. I was really heavy into that. And the summertime, you know, I was off the meat hinges in my behavior. And just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse until I did something that really caused me a lot of problems. So I got locked up and locked down, and gave me an opportunity for the first time in my teenage years to just relax and think where I was at, where I'm at, and where I'm going. So when I was locked up, I had that time to exhale and to breathe. I was waiting to exhale. So I exhaled when I was in the penal, alhamdulillah.
I think a lot of people have, not a lot, but I mean, just in terms of mentioning the benefits of somewhere where you think is not beneficial, prison, I took my Shahada in prison as well myself.
I would have
So-
never ever guessed that,
Yeah.
because you seem like such a clean cut individual. I think which speaks volumes about your mother, who
Yeah.
we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, it has an
And
impact.
because you just come across as a real cool, calm, laid back brother.
Yeah.
Mashallah. But you never know. You know, we used to say in Jahiliyyah, the most dangerous cats was the most quiet dudes that were in the room.
So you took your Shahada at 22, you became Muslim at 22. I mean, what advice do you give to somebody today, some of the Muslim youth, especially in the UK or in the US as well, that are going through those types of lifestyle, for example, doing drugs or, you know, getting high all the time? And what would you, drinking maybe?
I think it's important for people to realize that you don't have to reinvent the wheel in Islam. So when you become a Muslim, you have to make it your duty to do your level best to try to find balanced, knowledgeable people who have preceded you on the path. Beware of young people like yourself. Don't let young people like yourself be the ones who are going to teach us, like lifting weights. You never want to lift weights with someone who's similar to you in strength or weaker. You want to lift weights with people who are stronger than you, people who know what they're doing. They know the form. They know what they're doing. And that's how you want to get the optimum benefit out of it. So one of the worst things that can happen is for a person to be the way the Prophet described, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Khawarij. He said that the Khawarij were Hudathal Asnan, Sufahal Ahlam. They were very young in age, and their ideas and concepts were crazy. So due to youthful exuberance, young people do things at that age. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Make it your business. Get with people who know what they're doing. I'll give you a quick example, Akhi.
Yeah.
As reverse, the sister comes into the religion. And as a new Muslim, she's at the rahmah of the people who are around her. They say to her, sister, you got to get married. You have to get married. She'd be like, nah, I'm not really ready to get married. Nah, it's half of your religion. She said, okay, I don't know. And then they introduce her to the first brother. The first brother is horizontally challenged. He's not tall. I don't want to say a dwarf or a midget, but he's only 3 feet, 6 inches, 4 feet. And the sister is tall. She wouldn't have looked at him in Jahiliyyah. And the people say, nah, you get married for Allah. And she does it because she's easily influenced. She's a new Muslim. So my advice is two-pronged. The people who are already in the deen, take it easy. He doesn't have to change his name right away. He doesn't have to get married right away. He doesn't have to leave the house right away. He doesn't have to kill his mother's dog right away. You don't have to do that. But for the young people, because that's the question, I would say, look around and be diligent and do your level best. Find people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. Who had the big influence on you when you first became Muslim as a kind of, who would you say was influential?
There were a few people. I'll say in order. The man that I took the religion from in the penal, when he came into the penal, he had no knowledge, but he knew how to read the room. He knew people. He was a wise man, rahmatullah alayhi. He knew what to talk about, and what he spoke about was what I needed at that moment. I mean, it was as if he pumped life into my spirit. Secondly, I would have to say Dawood Adib. He's a famous personality who helped to spread Salafiyah back in the day, in the 90s, even before that, in the 80s. He was kind of like a celebrity, and I knew of him. I used to always walk up to him and say, can you teach me something from the Quran? And just hand him the Mus'haf. I'm sure he would look at me and say, I was a bit strange because there was no filters. Just walk up to someone and say, can you teach me? Like now I'm tired. I won't want someone doing that to me. And thirdly, another imam, his name is Ahmed Burhani. Ahmed Burhani was in a masjid in Essex County, East Orange, New Jersey, 61 Lincoln Street. He was nice. His community was very progressive. The brothers, I looked at them and I saw these people had their stuff together. And then lastly, Imam Siraj Wahaj. Imam Siraj Wahaj is my man. I have a lot of love for him, a lot of respect for him. He was one of the most popular speakers at that time. And every time I listened to him back then, he affected my iman in a positive way. And I always make it my business to let him know I stand on his shoulders. Do I agree with everything he says and does? Kalla. Nor does he agree with everything I say. But I have to have respect for the man because he blazed the trail and opened up the way for me by Allah's permission.
Yeah. How important is that for the youth today, for example, to have reference points like that, do you think, in your opinion?
This is our religion. This is our religion. And I find it disturbing. I find it surreal, bizarre that as Salafi people, we make claims about things. We're Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But we're doing innovation of having ghulu and personalities wal Jama'ah. We're breaking and dividing the Jama'ah. So we make a lot of claims, but the reality is not there. As it relates to having reference points and people in front of you, that's the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anybody who can see will see that you had the elders, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Abdurrahman bin Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and all of those older people. And then the Prophet at the same time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, paid attention to those shabab. Anas ibn Malik, Abdullah ibn Umar, ibn Amr al-As, all of those young people, Fatima. And there always has to be this process of passing the baton. This is the sunnah of Allah. We have to have elders. That's why the hadith said, Laysa minna. He's not from us. The one who doesn't have rahmah upon our youngsters and doesn't respect the elders. You got to respect the elders. And the elders have to see it's their job and responsibility to prepare the youngsters and to pass the baton. It is destructive, it's toxic, is dysfunctional when you have a situation when the elders don't want to pass the baton and you have the youngsters wanting to push the elders aside. There has to be a natural process. This is one of the biggest fitnas that African Americans have. There's a disconnect and a disjoint that has helped to divide us as Salafis. If we had elders, and I don't mean the if that the Prophet said, La taqul if, فَإِنَّهُ تَفْتَحْ إِنَّهَا تَفْتَحْ أَبْوَابَ الشَّيْطَانِ. I don't mean that if. Because what's going to happen is going to happen. But if I had people like me on the scene when I first started giving dawah back in the 90s, I think we'd have dealt with this fitna of the dawah of the ghulat in a different way. Elders would have said, don't bring that stuff here. We'll respect the scholars from other countries, ala ra's wal ayn, but we're not going to let anyone superimpose upon us their points of view or how they think we need to be getting down.
Especially when it's going to cause a division and fighting that has nothing to do or not relative to the circumstances in the UK and the like.
Especially, you're right.
What about, you mentioned somebody I think before who had a powerful, strong personality. I'm not sure who the imam that gave, was that the imam?
Yeah, that was the first one who gave me the shahada when I was in the penal. His name was Hezekiah 2X. Hezekiah 2X. When he became a real Muslim, he changed his name to Amir Pasha. Whenever he would travel anywhere, I would be willing to go pick him up from any airport on the East Coast because he was like my second father. I have a really good father in that my father worked hard, but my father was the type of cat who would come and sit me down and school me to history, school me to my culture, school me to music. As a matter of fact, as I was growing up, it was just a matter of time before me and my father was going to duke it out. We were going to get, it was like two lions in the lion den, and that lion den wasn't big enough for both of us. It was just a matter of time. Because my father's kind of like a country boy, you know. He wasn't like the slick, hip, younger people that when I used to listen to them. I'm sure you had them in Brixton. A sage, an old head who could school you to history. Maybe it's Rastafari or something like that. But he's giving you something that, it's like different from your dad who just don't really know what time it is. But I have to say, may Allah guide him and bless him.
Amen.
He worked hard every day. Every day. And that's what I learned. He put his money where his mouth was, and his actions spoke louder than words.
So these are two examples. How do you think that for the youth today, especially the boys, how would you translate that to them in terms of advice and how it impacted you as a man? Because, there's obviously, there's a movement now. I don't know if it's a Red Pill movement or whatever the movement's called, right, on manliness, right, on being a man and stuff like that, right? What's your
being a man, I think, I tried for many years just to always pump out this message. Stay balanced. Stay balanced. Stay in the middle and don't go to the extreme of either side. Some people think the extreme is someone who just wants to pray all day. He wants to be radical and extreme and like that. No, the extreme is the one not wearing hijab, not praying, because it's the middle that counts, and everything to the right or left of that is extreme. So this whole thing about the red pill, blue pill, all of this stuff, I really don't even get into that stuff myself. Andrew Tate, people like that, a lot of people talking. There's a lot of truth in that, but we have to have filters, man. I'm all for that and all about it because it's part of our religion. It's part of our religion. Allah Ta'ala has mentioned issuing the word and description, the superlative of men in many ayahs of the Quran. Too many to count. As he mentioned in the Quran, showing the rajula. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا يَا قَوْمِ اتَّبِعُوا الْمُرْسَلِينَ. There was one man who came by himself. When those messengers were giving dawah to the city, he came by himself and he said to the whole community, follow the messengers. He didn't care that people would act negative to what he was saying, like South Africa. South Africa, in this fitna of what's going on today, there's a lot of corruption, a lot of dysfunction in South Africa. But what they did recently is a sign of manliness and leadership. To stand out there and to be alone and to dare not to be a copycat. So we have all of those ayat. When Allah described the Prophet's companion, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiyallahu anhum, he said, فِيهِ رِجَالٌ يُحِبُّونَ أَن يَتَطَهَّرُوا وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُطَّهِّرِينَ. In this masjid of Quba, there are men who purify themselves, and Allah loves purity. So we don't hear the brothers who are talking about this thing about manliness, talking about being clean in your speech, being clean in your thoughts and your ideas, being clean in terms of whatever clean happens to be, being clean just in your body. We don't hear them putting emphasis on this. So in my opinion, this thing about being a man, all of that is cool, but we have to have filters where Al-Islam is going to explain to us what's the meaning of that. Not just being able to get on a horse and ride a horse.
Yeah.
Although that's cool.
Yeah.
Shooting bow and arrows, that's cool. But it's more than that. It's more than that.
Okay. You're a graduate of the Islamic University of Medina. That's why we're sitting down speaking, because this is all about graduates speaking, right, and telling us about their... Tell me about how did you apply to the Jamia? What made you go there? Was it like it is today? Everyone wants to be a Jamia student, or a lot of people do. What was it like for you? It
wasn't like that for me back then. It wasn't like that at all. Far from it. I myself was not even thinking about going to Medina. I didn't even hear about Medina. But I found myself bouncing around in a ball of confusion from one group to another group, one masjid to another masjid. I have a lot of incidents and stories that happened to me that it was shaitan trying to make me not be a Muslim from the people that I was dealing with. I mean, madness, brother, real madness. Too many examples. So I had asked Allah after meeting a number of these groups.
Do you want to give a couple of examples? Or...
One example I remember very vividly, man, is the group that I became Muslim with.
Yeah.
They kept telling me I have to listen to Al-Imam Warath-ud-Din Muhammad, who was in the nation, Elijah's son, and then he became a real Muslim.
Yeah.
But they didn't have knowledge. And I wasn't feeling that dawah. And I didn't have that thing where there was an affinity or connection between me and the nation. So when the older brothers would ask me, young man, what do you think what the Imam said? What do you think about it? I said, man, I don't understand what he's talking about. I like Farrakhan better than him as a speaker. And that wasn't the politically correct thing to say. They would get mad. And I was abrasive, just real upfront. Another example were the people from Jamaat Tabligh. I just went to Jamaat Tabligh just to hang out, be with the Muslims on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And I went home so I can work during the rest of the week. But there were African-American brothers who were speaking with a, broken English, saying brother, things like this. And I'm like, why are you talking like that? Why are you speaking like that? And I didn't want to be about that. I saw racism, things like that. But one of the worst groups was a group that were Baha. They were very close to my mother's crib, very close. And I was walking and I saw this big building and I never noticed it. And I went in it and lo and behold, man, it was a masjid. And it had a big picture of their leader with white hair. And he was sitting under, his picture was under a big bamboo chair. And someone came in, I told them I'm a Muslim. They didn't give me any love. They didn't welcome me at all. He was from Kenya. I asked him about what's going on here and there, and he didn't even want to talk to me. But I read this stuff, and it's close to my mother's crib. I went on the night that everybody was there. So I met the brothers. I met the people. So they all lined up on the far end of the hall, and the leader was sitting under the bamboo chair, the son of the big picture. Big, massive picture, brother. And everybody from the end of the hall started crawling to this cat. When they got to him, they kissed his right hand, the ring, and went. As my turn was coming up, I was like, man, I ain't doing this. I ain't doing this. I'm looking around, and it was crazy. I'm like, is this for real? So when my turn came, I just walked to the dude. I just walked up to him, shook his hand, and went. And everybody was sucking their teeth at me and looking at me like I was crazy. And you know, I'm going to give them that energy. What you looking at me for? I gave him that energy, and I never went back. Yeah. And I asked Allah, if he doesn't help me, this is the confusion that I'm in. I made sajda and asked with sincerity. If he doesn't help me to find an environment where I can learn my religion, I'm going to be in trouble. And then there was a brother, his name was Khidr Lawrence. He had graduated from the College of Dawah years before, during the time of Abu Amina Bilal Phillips. And he wrote me the tazkiyah and told me about it. And that's how I went to Medina.
Amazing. I think one of the beautiful things is that how the graduates influence other people to become students of knowledge and to learn and to spread the dawah after them. Do you get what I mean? Because me, I was influenced by Abu Amina Bilal Phillips. That's why I became Muslim after reading his book, The Fundamentals of Tawheed. And up to this day, there's someone that wants to find out about Islam. The only book I'd recommend, The Fundamentals of Tawheed by Abu Amina Bilal Phillips, because of how important it was in me taking my shahada. Do you get what I mean? So
I'm glad that you mentioned his name, because we should pay homage to him.
Yeah.
We should, respect him as being an elder, a sheikh. We should address him like that.
Yeah.
Some of these sheikhs who we look at overseas are younger than him.
Yeah.
Some of them may know Arabic more than him, but his dawah is more beneficial, more impactful than theirs is, because he knows how to translate that knowledge into the real.
Yeah.
Bilal Phillips was refuting a group called the Ansarullah cult.
Yeah.
That was another group that I used to go, and I almost was getting down with them, because their women were proper hijab, and the men were dressed in the Sudanese thobes with turbans. And I thought they were the real Muslims until I heard what that cat was saying. And it was madness. Bilal Phillips wrote a refutation against them that saved me from that.
Yeah.
So I tell people, just as I stand on the shoulders of Imam Siraj Wahaj, we collectively stand on the shoulders of Bilal Phillips.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to stay in touch with him, try to give him love.
Yeah.
Anytime he's in a majlis with me, I try to big him up, let people know I got respect for that guy.
He's a lot of the books that he's made it easy for people to access knowledge in the language, in the English language. Evolution of Fiqh, an amazing book. It's a summary translation of Tariq al-Tashri'. He's got the book on Jinn, he's got the book on dreams, he's got the book on Tawheed, he's got the book on Islamic studies, which he did for Manarat School, 4 books. Excellent books. I mean, the benefit is huge, let alone the videos and stuff like that. And just on a side note, the funniest thing is I got to meet him for the first time, and for me it was an honor, obviously, when I was in Gambia doing the project with Insight into Islam. So look at the fadl he has on me is that I was in touch with a brother called Hussein, you know him very well, Gambian in ICT. And I'm not looking anytime to stay. The place I'm staying isn't really that nice. I want to stay somewhere else. Jazakallah to the Shaykh that hosting us. He goes, look, let me speak to the university, Abu Amina Bilal Phillips University over there. And then they put me up in his house that he has in the Gambia. And then we had a meeting. I got to speak to him online for the first time, and it was, for me, it was an honor just to speak to him, obviously, because I don't know him apart from through his works. And like you said, you have to give, you have to pay respect to those that have preceded you in knowledge and dawah. At least recognize and acknowledge the khidmah that they've done for the deen. Right? Like you said, we don't always have to agree on everything. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's much I disagree with him on either myself, that I know of his books, nothing in his books anyway. You know, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to respect and mention the good that the person has.
Do you know, Akhi AbdulWahid, Bilal Phillips and his dawah, it consisted of a tarkeez and focusing and concentrating on the right and correct aqeedah.
Yeah.
Like the book you mentioned.
Yeah.
The correct minhaj and doing things the right way. He made refutations as well. The Ansarullah cult.
Yeah.
He did tafsir books. Okay, you see a plethora of ulum that he's dealing with, an all-around balance. And on the ground, he used to encourage Muslims, hey, maybe we should look for some alternatives of living in the West. Let's go to Belize. And there's a hadith that reminds me of Bilal Phillips, and Allah is his hasib. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna Allah yuhibbu ma'ali al-umur wa yakrahu safsafaha. Allah loves it when you preoccupy yourself with high exalted issues, and he dislikes you occupying yourself with trivial things.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the pudding. That's what my mom said.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you have brothers who come after him, African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, who just want to just throw the brother away.
Yeah.
Just want to, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. I think our exposure to the ulama, my generation, my jil in the Jamia, I think it was more than Bilal Phillips and those brothers who were doing his time. Just as the young brothers who came after us, their exposure to knowledge is more than our generation. People like Abdurrahman Hassan, people like Yasin Munye, Bu Taymiyah, all of these shabab, Muhammad Abdul Razak, there are a lot. These guys memorize the Quran. These young brothers memorize the Quran. So we have to be willing to see, man, with each generation, we have to be able to respect those people who preceded us. That's our religion. وَالَّذِينَ جَاءُوا مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ. Those who come after them make dua and say, oh Allah, forgive us and those who preceded us to al-Iman.
No.
But we find some crazy, corrupt, decrepit stuff jumping off.
Yeah, sadly. You're in the Jamia now. You've gone over there. You're a student in the Jamia. How old are you at this point? And tell me about the Jamia.
I was 22 years old. I was a young buck. I was very, very young, but I was really happy to be there. And I hadn't even been there very long, but I got into some conflict with the hardcore brothers, and they were not hardcore like they are right now, the ghulat. They were just young whippersnappers at that time. It was just developing, because that thing is always there with youngsters. And right away, I got into it with them because I had no knowledge about the religion, and they didn't know how to deal with me. You have to be able to appreciate, man, people's background. Someone came to me and said, I've murdered 99 people. I took them out. I killed all 99. I'm asking you, can I make Toba? Even if I didn't think he could make Toba, self-preservation, baby. I'm going to say, of course you can make Toba. I'm going to do Tokya, because this dude done killed 99 people. He has no problems and qualms with taking me out. You have to know people's background. Ya Mu'adh, innaka taqdim ala qawmin min ahli al-kitab. You got to know who you're dealing with. So when I got there, those brothers didn't know who they were dealing with. And right away, I had clashes with them. But alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me. Dawud Adib came. I met the right people. And then I became Salafi, getting the tapes of a Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani and getting tarbiyah on those tapes. And in the haram of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with some good zumala in Kulliyat al-Da'wah.
Yeah. So you went Kulliyat al-Da'wah.
I went to Kulliyat al-Da'wah, brother. Wa usuluddin wa ni'ma ikhtiyar hu.
Alhamdulillah, not many people that sit in this maktaba go Kulliyat al-Da'wah, even though I encourage it anyway, because of the impact it will have in terms of dawah, studying, focusing on Aqeedah and history and stuff. Why did you pick dawah? What kulliyah do you advise the shabab to pick today?
I would tell brothers to listen to the advice of other people and do your homework. Listen to what their experiences were, the pros and the cons of all of the kulliyat, and choose the one that your nafs, that your spirit goes towards. Because there was this thing in the Jamia after me, and that was, if you go to Kulliyat al-Hadith, that's a dalil, you're Salafi.
Yeah.
It's like some of these communities, if you teach the books of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, that's a proof you're Salafi. You don't have to teach those books. Not that we're against that. You teach the books that the people need the most. For me, I love the book Usul al-Sunnah by Imam Ahmed for my community, because in it is the Usul of the Sunnah, and you can put it across in a way where it's a mu'idh to the regular awam who are not students. When you talk about the Mizan and the Dajjal and all of those things that are going on. So that was something that I heard later on. I say go to the kulliyah that floats your boat and makes you the best that you can be. Don't go to a kulliyah that you're doing it because everybody else is doing it. And that's what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud told the people. La takunu imma. Don't be a copycat. If the people do good, you do good. If the people do bad, you do bad. He said, if the people do good, you do good. And if they do bad, tafattinu. Look at what they're doing. Do what is best for you. I would advise Kulliyat al-Dawah, baby, all day long.
Kulliyat al-Dawah. Good. What's the main subjects that you study there? What's the focus there?
We studied the Kutub al-Sitta.
Yeah.
Sahih al-Bukhari, and I had a tremendous teacher, Shaykh Faiz al-Qurashi. I had some really good teachers, brother. But because it's Kulliyat al-Dawah, we dealt with Usul ad-Din. Kulliyat al-Dawah, Usul ad-Din. So we made a ta'ammuq, and we went deep into learning about Aqeedah. I had the Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Abbad was teaching us Kitab al-Iman. And at the beginning, to be honest with you, in the first year, I really didn't hit it off with him that well because he wasn't really good at tadris as far as I'm concerned. He was really new. He was green at that time, very young. And his class was just batted to me. And as a young African-American, I had a level of arrogance in that. You remember when we were in the Shu'bah? Dr. Fa Abdul Rahim, rahmatullah alayhi, he was an abkari. He's a genius. Yeah. You know what he was doing when he built that and he made that? I used to sit there in the Shu'bah, and because I was a new Muslim, I didn't know any of the language, any of the huruf. I would say, why are we learning this in Arabic? I don't know Arabic. This is not fair. These people came from Ghana. They came from Philippines. They had the Quran. They had a jumper. I always felt we were lesser. And so I'm an advocate. Why are we learning we should be learning in English? Arrogance, brother. That's all it was. Yeah. But after that second year, and I started saying, wow, man, I'm understanding. I'm dreaming in Arabic and so forth and so on. So for me, Kulliyat al-Dawah, the Shaykh Abdul Razak, he was saying about al-Iman, the Mu'tazila say this, the Ash'a'ira say that, the Murji'ah say this. And I was sitting there saying, come on, man, all of this kalam farik. Al-Iman is clear. It's the statements with your tongue, clear. It's your actions. It's what your heart is in your heart. It goes up with Iman. It goes down with Ma'asiyah. It's simple. What's all this kalam? It used to really, really annoy me. But I had to sit there. He used to watch me moving like that. And he stopped me and said, what's good? And I told him. And he said that I needed to calm down and to become humble. Do I think that the Imams of al-Islam who were before me didn't know what they were doing in addressing these issues? And he put it across to me in a way that was like just drinking cool Zamzam water, man, on a hot summer's day. Because what he said made sense. Yeah. And inshallah, not to blow my horn, I am a person, if you bring me the dalil, I'm going to be mustaslim. I'm going to be munqad. Yeah. Just don't bring me ilm al-kalam. Bring me dalil. Yeah. And this is what I've always said to my haters. Yeah. Come, let's sit down. Let's talk. Inshallah, I've dealt with people who taught me and that I've dealt with who the haqq is ahab ilayna min anfusina wa min shuyukhina. Come. But people don't want to come and talk to you, save you.
We're going to come to some of when you came back and given dawah, but just as a quick one, who had an influence you in terms of teachers while you were at the Jamia? in Medina, in the Haram, and tell us a bit about what you used to do in the holidays, because many people in the holidays, they can't wait to get back to the UK.
I think the people who had the most impact on me on the top of the list, at the top of the list, was Sheikh Umar Falata, who originates from Nigeria.
Yeah.
He was from the Falata tribe of Nigeria. He was from the students of Shaykh Abdurrahman al-Afriqi, also from Nigeria. I was just blown away by his Sawt al-Jawhari. He used to teach in the Roda.
Yeah.
And I walked by him and he was speaking. I was like, wow. His stature, how he was talking. And he would do this thing in Arabic language where he would pronounce words in a way that you were like, wow. So I gravitated towards him. And then after him, Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, who really, really, really put Aqeedah in me and with me and focused on the Minhaj al-Salafi.
Yeah.
I think I became Salafi with him more than any other Sheikh in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, along with Al-Albani, who was the first, influence upon me. So those two, as well as the Sheikh Abdullah bin Muhammad al-Ghunayman. Sheikh Ghunayman, he was a tremendous teacher and a tremendous murabbi, and he was Rahimun Bina. Every time Americans would come, every time brothers from England would come, he would always open up his house and private majalis for us. And no matter what the question was, you know the kind of questions we can ask, brother. The sheikh never would have his, feathers ruffled. He was always cool, calm. He had a great impact upon me as well. So there were a lot of people, Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Abad, and other teachers inside of the Shoba. They had a great impact upon me. But I can't fail to mention Sheikh Ali Al-Halabi and those Jordanian sheikhs who used to come here.
Yeah.
Sheikh Ali Al-Halabi, rahmatullahi alayhi, had a tremendous impact, and the madrasa of Al-Imam Al-Albani. I learned Tawheed in the Jamia. I learned about Tawheed in the Jamia. But I wasn't learning Salafiyah as such. I'm not putting anybody down, and I'm not saying they're not Salafi. But I learned Tawheed, which is a great ni'mah, right?
Yeah.
It's the first wajib from the wajibat on the abd. But with Al-Albani, listening to those tapes, I learned a Salafiyah from him and his students, and the different people were going to his private majlis. And that, coupled with what I was learning in the Jamia and what was coming at me, was, I would say, the greatest ni'mah that Allah imtanna alayya biha.
Yeah.
Going to the Jamia, accepting Islam, going to the Jamia, and were the two greatest ni'mas.
Yeah. In the Jamia, you mentioned these scholars. Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, he's also not Arab, is he? Or where's he from? What's his background?
The Sheikh is from Ethiopia. He's Habashi.
Yeah.
And his Arabic, for me, being an Ajami, Arabs who their mother tongue is Arabic can listen to him and know he's not an Arab.
Yeah.
They can listen to Shaykh Abu Usamah Wasiullah Abbas and know he's not an Arab.
Yeah.
They can listen to Shaykh Abdurrahim Fa Abdurrahim and know he's not an Arabic.
Yeah.
But they speak well. And I think because we're not Arabs, our ear for that, it just connects. Listening to him at that time was just what the doctor ordered for me.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, if I listen to any of his tapes, especially Aqeedah al-Wasatiyah, his Arabic was really beautiful. The Sheikh al-Ethiopi, I sat with him a few times in the Haram. You could tell he's not an Arab. You could tell he's not an Arab. But especially the Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, rahimahullah, his Arabic was really kind of tajlib al-qulub. And I have to say this, I don't believe in calling people madkhalis or jamis.
Yeah.
But as it relates to Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, rahmatullah, unlike other people from these ghulat, Sheikh Muhammad was not into the business of kicking Salafis off of the Minhaj al-Salafi. And calling him Jami, those people who do that, is not right. And I try to defend him on that. People make that terminology, two synonyms.
It's the same.
No, they're not the same. During that time, he did tasaddara, the Haraki people, the people who were doing those things that they were doing. He definitely was at the forefront of dealing with them.
Yeah.
But he dealt with them. He didn't come to Salafis ever and made the isqat and knock down Salafis, threaten people. If you don't take what I take, I'm going to take you down. That wasn't Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami. And I'm here to say that, as I've been saying it for years. It's unfair and it's vulgar.
Yeah, to make that comparison as if it's the same. A question, when you, and we're going to get there as well, there's a lot to talk about, and I know we're limited on time because there's brothers waiting for you and stuff like that, and you're only here for a couple hours. It needs to be 2 parts. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit, because we're speaking about Sheikh Ali Hassan al-Halabi, what a big influence on the Salafi Dawah in the UK, generally speaking, not just on you, but on the, you know, the students of Sheikh al-Albani, obviously. You've graduated. Where have you landed? You haven't landed in US. You've graduated from Kulliyat al-Dawah. Before that, just a quick story you mentioned. I think it's important for the Shabab on, were you married or single? That's always a question, you know. I'm going to go Jamia, but I'm married, I can't go. Should I go?
Now, I was married because it was very easy for a married student at that time, especially from America, to bring your wife. And the Jamia has a lot of khair in it. And the people who developed the Jamia and took care of the Jamia had the Ishraf at the Jamia. We owe a great debt of gratitude to them for what they gave us. And you know, they say the people of virtue recognize and appreciate people of virtue. We owe a great debt of gratitude to the Jamia. So when I went, you would get about 50 American students every year who would enroll. So I was there for about 8 years. So that's 275 people, something like that. From those people, it was about 4 people who graduated from the time I enrolled until the time I left. So there was a high rate of dropouts. So one of the ways that they tried to curtail and prevent that was make it easy for you to get married and bring your wife. So I got married, and right away, within months, I brought my wife. And they gave me second and accommodation. And they used to give us money to travel, money. It was a lot of places you can go to get help, financial assistance all over Medina. I mean, a lot of places. And people would give you 500 pounds, 1,000 pounds. And being popular, and we were from America, we used to get a lot of help from the Saudi Arabian shop. And that's why I say, I've been all over the world, to all of the continents, and I have respect for the Saudi Arabian people and their culture. But they're like everybody else. They have good and they have bad. They have good and they have bad. But being there, in the 8 years that I was there, never did I buy any meat. Why? Because my neighbors in our Hay, Arudu Kurdi, they used to always slaughter and send us meat in our building, in our imara. For 8 years, brother, 8 years.
All students in the Imara.
The students in our Imara, right there in Ardul Kurdi.
Amazing. How did you get married? What's your story of marriage? Because that's also quite an amazing.
Well, I went to Medina, and you know, as a student, you're not mixing that. It's a very conservative society. The women are dressed in hijab, jilbab. They don't mix in public for the most part. And I wanted to get married, especially after that first year. And I knew a lot of Sudanese people. So I saw one Sudanese man who was walking towards the haram after coming out of the wudu area, and he was tying his turban, and I was behind him. I caught up to him and I told him in my broken Arabic, I'm from America. My name is Khalifa Abdurrahman, and I'm studying the Jamia, and I want to get married. Can you help me? Just like that. And he looked at me and he told me in his Sudanese Ammiya that his name was Musa Abdullah Bilal. He's from Wad Medani in Al Jazeera in Sudan. He works in Riyadh, and this was his last prayer in Medina. He just came to pray in the masjid, and he's going to Mecca, and he's going to Sudan. I caught him the last day. So he told me, you come, you visit me, inshallah. I have 4 daughters, and if one of them agrees, I'll marry you. So he gave me the address in Arabic, and I wrote it down in English, transliteration. Went to the Jamia, told the Sudanese brothers what had happened. They knew the place. They wrote it down. A few months passed. In the summertime, I went, and I made it to his house in Baruna. He came out. He was happy to see me. Sheikh Musa had a big gap in his front teeth, the whitest teeth you ever saw in your life. He had a big gap. He came around that corner and his face lit up. And I stayed with him in his house for a few days, just going to the masjid right in front of his house, dealing with the people from his community, and he was watching. After a few days, he came and he used to call me Muallim, Ya Muallim. And he said, I spoke to my daughters, and one of them is interested. She's going to come tomorrow, and you'll talk to her. So I was, blessed by Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's how I married Usamah. And it was a tremendous ni'mah being married to her because she didn't speak English.
Yeah.
She had the desire to be on her deen, although the group she was with wasn't the best group in Sudan. But she was ignorant. But she had that desire to give dawah and to be on the deen, mashallah. So the fact she didn't speak English helped me to learn Arabic, helped me to speak Arabic. Because I'm sure you can attest to the fact that if you do not have the mamaras and you just always speaking, your skills will lag behind. You'll understand, but you won't be able to express yourself. So that was something that gave me a miza with the people who were my zumala.
Do you advise young students today to do the same thing? Go up to a man in the street and say, "Guess what? I'm
I
want to marry you. I want to get married."
I don't advise you to do that.
How would they do it, the young shabab today? Because that was a blessing, really.
That was a blessing.
And it takes a level of courage and rujula to even do that in the first place. Or
it's the qadr of Allah. It was just the qadr of Allah. It was the qadr of Allah because I wasn't desperate. It was just meant to happen like that. It was just meant to happen like that.
But it happened so smooth, so easy. How would you advise a young person today who says that I'm struggling to get married? Help me. What advice do you give them?
I mean, for me, I know there must be people who are struggling to get married. This generation, they're dealing with different issues and tahaddiyat. You anuna from stuff maybe we didn't have to deal with challenges. But we have to have husn al-dhan billah. Husn al-dhan billah. Have a good opinion about Allah. As Allah Ta'ala said in the hadith that is authentic, Qudsi. He said, Ana inda dhan bi abdi. I am the way my slave thinks I'm going to be. If he thinks good, it's going to be good. If he thinks Allah can't do it, Allah won't do it, and he's looking at other avenues and looks at Allah secondarily, a'udhu billah, then he won't be successful. So I have husn al-dhan billah, especially in light of the fact that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that Allah is responsible for 3 people. And one of those 3 people he said he's responsible for is the young person who wants to get married. Allah is damin on that individual, responsible. Allah is responsible for the person who is a mujahid fi sabilillah, to take care of him, take care of his family. And the third person, Allah is damin on the one who takes a debt with the intention of paying it back. No matter what his circumstances, he's unemployed, but he wants to pay it back. Allah is going to get the kafal lahu with paying about and making the tasdeed of his debt. So why wouldn't Allah want the slave, especially the youngster, to get married? Allah loves khair, and not being married brings a lot of fitna in the earth, in the homes. Allah doesn't want that. Allah legislated khair. So having the youngster being married is, from what Allah wants, inshallah. So let him have a husn al-dhan billah.
You've graduated, Kulliyat Dawah. You landed in Brixton, as you mentioned at the beginning. Tell me about how it is being giving dawah in the UK. And, as far as I know, I think, like I said, you've been giving dawah the longest. I remember your khutub and the impact they had on, in terms of, maybe it's just the fact that it's an American accent and we're all Brits, could be that. But it has an impact, right? Alhamdulillah. Maybe that could be from Kulliyat Dawah as well. That's the benefit of Kulliyat Dawah. But you had an impact in your khutub on the congregation. Also as well, in terms of when the scholars came over, you used to translate. Everyone was looking forward to your translation. It was animated, right? It wasn't just a translation where someone's just talking and they're still, and your translations are animated as well, aren't they? So like you are now today, obviously, it has an impact. It benefits people, right? Because people can feel the passion, they can feel Tell us a bit about your dawah and giving dawah, and How?
Akhi Habibi AbdulWahid, these last few weeks, now that people know that I'm breaking camp and I'm rolling out and bouncing, a lot of people have come to me and they've told me, I heard you give a translation. There's a brother, his name is Suhail. He's from Leeds. He's in Dubai right now. Caught me out of the clear blue sky and thanked me and said that when he heard a translation of mine, it was a breath of fresh air for him. Other people said other things. They became Salafi after him. They started praying. They wore hijab. I've been hearing that from people, and it really makes the heart tranquil, man, because you want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
Although your dawah is for Allah Azza wa
Yeah.
Jal. And the fact that people would say that about the translation, I do remember the days in Brixton doing those translations. You know, it's just like a mohiba, something Allah gives someone. Like that companion, Rasulullah said, you have two character traits that Allah loves. Al-hilm wal-anat. You're gentle and you're not in haste. He said, Ya Rasulullah, are they two characteristics that Allah put in me or I developed them? He said, Allah put it in you. Like you. You're just a laid back brother. And that's one of the reasons why I came. Because, you know, they say if you hang out with someone, you'll take on those characteristics. And I want to be cool like that. So that thing with the translation, as well as the khutbah, no doubt, brother. You either have it or you don't have it. That's really how it goes. But I know people who develop that. But I benefited from Kulliyat al-Da'wah. Why? Because we had to give the khutbah in the classroom in front of the 30 Zumala.
Yeah.
And my name, Frankie Bernard Lipscomb, was like 18th or 17th in the row. And I saw half of the students do good or do bad. I saw it. So, you know, it says, As-Sa'id man wu'idha bi ghayrihi. The successful one is the one who learns from other people's mistakes. I saw what to do and what not to do. I saw you better get ready when your turn comes. You better be ready. Then you have to give a khutbah downstairs in the big musalla where there were ulama. Hudayfi was praying with us. Shaykh Ali Hudayfi was praying in our masjid. And, you know, and there were other scholars who were in our masjid. So you're going to get up after the Salat al-Dhuhr and you're going to speak Arabic. It's not your language. But I had Usamah who was developing my kalam. And I had Al-Albani and all of these things. And I learned. Talk about what you believe in, man. Talk about what you believe in. There's an elephant in the room. Talk about what you believe in. And it's going to have an effect. And I talked about the importance of taswiyat as-sufuf in our musalla. Because we were students and we were not paying attention to those things. We were trying to run out to go to the matam. So I was ready. And that taught me today, be prepared and believe in what you're trying to do and be topical. Deal with the elephants that are in the room, but do it in a proper way. So all of those things, man, they had an impact. I have a lot of respect for brothers like yourself and others who were naturally introverted and quiet. But you get thrust into the Maidan of Dawah and that thing has to come out. And I've seen that with quite a few brothers. You see that they're naturally introverted. But the Dawah and the need of the Dawah made them get in the mud and say, here I stand. Let's get busy.
Advice to graduates that have graduated and they're still kind of, maybe not introverted, but they're saying they don't want to be in front of a camera. They don't want to do tasaddur or some of these statements that you know that we hear, but it has a negative impact on the dawah. What advice would you give them to get out of, to actually put themselves out there if they've got something to offer, knowledge-based, they've graduated from the Jamia?
Yeah, this is a problem, Akhi. It's blameworthy to me for those people who have the ability, but they make istisghar and istihana of their own selves. And it becomes even worse when it's that manufactured humility. Because the dawah is in need of men. It's in need of people. And everyone has to get out there to get in where he fits in. And if we leave the space, someone will occupy that space who is not deserving or he's not the person for that job. And you're partly responsible for it. Like in the masjid. If the masjid is bringing imams who don't speak English, they're speaking Urdu, Arabic, Somali language only. That administration is partly responsible when kids become extreme because you're not putting someone up there who can do the job. So I think when brothers who have the ability to give something, when they don't get out there, it's a problem. Now, granted, it's not for everybody. One of the greatest scholars of al-Hadith is Al-Imam Sha'bi, Sulaiman ibn Mihran, Sha'bi, rahimahullah ta'ala. He was, I don't want to say anti-sociable in a bad way, but he didn't like making tahdith. And he's one of the men who the sunnah taduru alayhi. And if you read Sir Alam al-Nubala and other books like that, Imam al-Sha'bi, the story had it that he had a dog. And when he came out, the people were seeing, looking at him. He looked, like he was hazeen and sad. They said, what's the matter? He said, مات اليوم الذي كان يأمر بالمعروف وينهى عن المنكر. Today, the one who used to engage and tell the people do good and stop the evil, he died. They said, who died? He said his dog. They used to keep people away from knocking on his door. So they said he was anti-sociable in our culture.
Yeah.
He didn't want to give tahdith, and he had all of that knowledge. Allahu Alam. Some people are just naturally like that. We get that. But you can be, or someone else can be, a diamond in the rut, man. But you're never going to know that until you explore. And I don't believe in allowing fear to prevent us from being the most that we can be. So it's a balance, Akhi. It's the balance of getting out there before you're ready, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And sticking back when you should be out there. One time, a brother told me, Dawah Deep, he said he was in a masjid, and all of the brothers who had knew a little bit of Arabic, and they had been Muslims for some time, when it was time to pray Maghrib, they would say, no, you go. 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 And one of the American Muslim mission brothers, who I became Muslim when he got out there, he said, Allahu Akbar. And everybody got, and then he said, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All
In
praise
English.
in English. And why was that? Because everybody else was talking, you go, you go,
Yeah.
you go. Whereas Yusuf said to the Aziz, Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard. Put me over the storage of the earth. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and I'm trustworthy. I know what I'm doing, and I'm trustworthy. So if you're the man for the job, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. There was a lot of challenges in Dawah, especially in the mid-90s when you started giving Dawah. What were the main challenges, and how were they overcome?
A lot of challenges had to do with the Islamophobia that was that became the norm back then. Traveling, the feds would stop you, hold you up for long periods of time. We had a lot of extremists and a lot of radical Muslim groups that we had to deal with. And the Salafi people were the ones who were dealing with that head on.
Like the Takfiris and stuff.
Takfiris, jihadis, Hizb ut-Tahrir, people like that. And also the problems from the Asabiyya and the Ta'assub, that blind following of, Sufis and all of this stuff like that. So unfortunately, there was a lot of enmity back then. And now it's been regurgitated. And you find it, the culture right now with the Dawah, a lot of the Shabab is just refuting and fighting each other. These groups with what's going on in the Muslim world right now and right here domestically, the challenges that we're facing. It's a crying shame, brother, that the young people are preoccupied with just refuting each other. And a lot of times the refutations, for the most part, are not scholastic. It's about personalities, and this is about being, blind following. That's all. Yeah. So we had that back then. There were quite a few challenges, but alhamdulillah, we made it through. And now we have a whole assortment of new challenges today in 2024.
Alhamdulillah, you've traveled many cities in the UK, right? You've been in Brixton, I think Birmingham, Liverpool, Leeds, right? Maybe more than that I don't know of, but that's where I've seen you've had an impact on the communities. Just a quick one. What's your favorite city? Anyway, this is kind of a light topic. And then tell me how the Dawah is in these places.
I like, to this day, Keithley the most. They were from Kashmir.
Yeah.
And that was my home here in the UK.
Yeah.
I have fond memories of traveling Hajj, Umrah to other cities. And whenever I come back home, Keithley feels I'm coming home. And that's for a number of reasons. I also absolutely loved Liverpool. I loved the city. I loved the people. But it was a very toxic community. Group of people with Jaliyah. They're very racist and very ignorant. And they're from the Jamaat al-Islah. Ikhwan Muslimin. They were some of the worst people in terms of the dirty games they used to play, calling up the charity commission,
Wow.
lying on people, taking people to court, lying.
Yeah.
And this is the way of some of those people, brother. They claim they want al-Islam, they want the Khilafah, and these people are some of the furthest people away from that. But the city itself was really nice.
Yeah.
I liked Leeds. I really did. We were able to do a lot and accomplish a lot in Leeds. And I'll always have a lot of love for the brothers in Leeds. And of course, Green Lane Masjid is a special place. It is what I consider to be a masjid that's ahead of the curve, has a lot of positive things going on.
Yeah.
I would love for you to be a part of that. They're always looking for new blood, new people, get an injection, and to stay in the middle. We don't want Green Lane going this way or that way or losing sight of the ethos of Ahlul Hadith Haqqan.
No.
So I like the fact that they help the Muslims nationally, locally, and internationally.
Yeah.
They have a lot of platforms, man, that afford you an opportunity to get your feet dirty on different levels. Taking care of the reverts, taking care of the elderly, really giving a lot of things to the shabab. So I remember one year there was a program, a competition on Islam Channel, and it was Model Mosque. And they looked at all of the masjids in the UK. And Birmingham and Green Lane came second. And I have no doubt we lost because there was a plot. There was a conspiracy, brother. It was a conspiracy, brother. That's what happened, man. But I was happy to be the representative of Green Lane. And I believe when I stood there and they were showing our activities, I was proud that those brothers chose me to be the mouthpiece for Green Lane and to display to the community, this is what a masjid looks like. Are they perfect? Kalla wallahi. No masjid is perfect. Mecca, Medina, Baytul Maqdis, no masjid is perfect. But for the most part, I believe that the khair far outweighs the bad.
Yeah. Obviously, with regards to a topic, we'll speak about this, which is infighting amongst Salafis. It still continues. What's your advice to people that might be from the general shabab, the youngsters and stuff like that? What's your advice to them if they come across this? Because it happens. Oh, what do we say? This person's been refuted. That person's been refuted. And they were before that known to be upon Salafi and known to be students of knowledge that you can benefit from. What advice would you give to that concern? Because you've seen a lot of infighting. You were as you said at one point. And the second question on top of that is, what's your kind of advice to your haters, basically, after?
I would try to advise the shabab to avoid that, to avoid it altogether. It's not beneficial. It's not beneficial knowledge. And this is what the major scholars of my time used to say. Al-Albani, Ibn Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh Muqbil, Rahmatullah alayhim. They used to always advise the shabab, leave this. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad used to say it clearly, leave this stuff and turn to beneficial knowledge. If a person were to turn to learning tajweed and memorizing the Quran, and the other one was into this jarh wa tajreeh stuff, this kalam, he's on it, he's not on it, don't listen. After a 2-year period, the one who turned to the Quran, learning it, tajweed, tafsir, whatever, he would be able to measure his advancement, and he would see that he left this guy in the dust. Because this stuff is easy. Just say whatever you want to say. You don't have to make a tathabbut, and then just say what you ever say. So my advice would be, leave that stuff alone and take advantage of your time, your youth, being young, by learning the Quran. As it relates to the haters, I think that I'm really struggling, Akhi AbdulWahid, to get to a level in my personality and my existence where I can really, with sincerity, just forgive people. But I find it very hard forgiving these brothers, the personalities, the head ones who are ma'rufun, and many of the young ones who inherited that, who I don't even know. People who said I'm an innovator just because they inherited that kalam. If I'm an innovator, I've given you guys opportunities to come and talk to me. Save me. Save me. I don't want to be an innovator. Wallahi, I don't want to. You know, if a non-Muslim came and said to me, just give me dawah, help me, I'm going to sit him down and do my best. A person who I believe is a real innovator came to me and said, I'm not going to argue with you. Just help me. I'm not going to say to him the Salaf didn't sit with innovators. I mean, how many times did we challenge them? How many times in America, in the UK, locally, wherever they are? But the way they give dawah and the understanding is they don't want to help you. And I believe they don't want to help you because they know that stuff they're on is whackness. It's whackness. You were to sit with them and you were to really, what usul from the usul of the sunnah and the salafiyah did the person go against that warranted you expelling him? So all I can say, I don't want to say anything evil, man. I'm just still struggling, to be honest with you, to overcome that thing. And that's because I know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the example, and he went through a lot more. I mean, he went through a lot, and he forgave people, and he overlooked. So I'm saying, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, I'm Salafi, I follow the Prophet. Well, follow him in those things like that. Follow him in those things like that. So I'm still struggling. But we have to remember that the one who has been oppressed, he has a right. As the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that every person who's been oppressed, he has a right to say something. He has his point of view to be said. And in the laws of qisas, you can forgive people or you could do the law of retribution. So it's not necessarily that you're wrong, but I know it's always better. Have mercy upon those who are in the earth, so that the one who is in the sky over the seven heavens in the way that befits his majesty will have mercy upon you. But I'm still trying to deal with that because the level of zulm and the way they were, that stuff that they were on. We used to be together, brother, but sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Inshallah, I think one of the, I mean, as long as someone's alive, they've got the opportunity to rectify.
I believe that.
And they've got the opportunity to say, look, this was wrong. I apologize. Or, you know, and alhamdulillah, that happened. That happens in the past. It can happen in the future with some of the ikhwa, some of the brothers, when they oppressed the brother Ismail Bowman, Allah yarhamahu, afterwards. You know, before, you know, they made amends with him before they passed away. They realized it wasn't you know what I mean? It was zulm, it was oppression. So inshallah, there's always the opportunity. I think that's what's important.
So I have a lot of respect, Afwan AbdulWahid, for my Shaykh Ali al-Halabi, because for the years that he was oppressed, he's in Jordan. He's dealing with ISIS. He's dealing with all of these liberals. Him and the people, the sheikhs with him from the Al-Albani Institute, they're dealing with a lot of tahaddiyat in Jordan. You know, the CIA, they're in Jordan. Jordan is a very strategic part of the Arab world, the Muslim world. A lot of drama in Jordan. It's a good place in Sham. Shaykh Ali al-Halabi was dealing with so many jihads on so many levels. In education and dawah and just so many things. And you have nothing better to do except to say he's a deviant. And what did I see from him with my own eyes? He would always tell me, I would say, Sheikh, I'm having problems forgiving these people. He would say, Abu Usamah, you know what Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah used to say, the best way you can deal with people who oppress you, disobey Allah as it relates to you, is you obey Allah as it relates to them. And never did I hear him say a kalima where it was muntaqam, he was getting revenge. I've seen him animated, but he always seemed to be upset at what was going on, not necessarily that he was being oppressed, and he was the hadaf. He was the hadaf. So I saw that with my eyes. It's not just something I read in books about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I saw that, and I feel that that's honorable. And Allah is His Hasib. And may Allah Ta'ala put us on the sabil of the Anbiya and the Rasul. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'in.
Advice you'd give, I mean, inshallah, you'll leave in the UK, but it won't be your last visit. And inshallah, you're going to continue giving dawah. What's your advice to students and to the Muslims in the UK in the different cities that you've been giving dawah? What would you say to them in terms of a short advice? The shabab specifically, but also the elders.
Nothing deep, nothing heavy. It's what I've been calling to all this time. Stay balanced. Stay balanced and give people the benefit of the doubt. All of this ikhtilafat and this niza' and all of this fighting and stuff like that, some of it is natural that we're going to not understand where a person is coming from, or we're not going to agree. But it doesn't warrant all of this hatred. Some people out there, they have children, there's civil rivalry between them, brothers and sisters, biological brothers and sisters. Some people have it really bad. Some of their families are really, really bad. And some people, their children get along just naturally. And this is how Bani Adam is. The Prophet ﷺ said that when Allah created Adam, he took a qabda from all of the earth, all of the terrain, white, red, yellow, brown, black, and from every texture, sand, mud, this, that, and he created Adam. And that's why some of Adam's children come out white, brown, red, and some of Adam's children come out easy to get along with and difficult to get along with. So you'll meet that cat and your arwah are like the, Junud Mujannada. You meet him for the first time and it's like, wow, you mesh. And then the person you meet him, and you're going to always clash. So we're going to have people like that. People have bipolar, people on the spectrum, people who have Asperger's. Yeah, they got Asperger's. And people have all kinds of issues. We just have to learn how to get along with people, man. And just know from the beginning, we can't get along. We can't understand everything the same way all the time. So sometimes having differences of opinion is natural. So we need to learn that. And not be people who are trying to get all the spotlight on us, but just get in where you feel it and spread the religion.
No, give dawah.
Give dawah, man. Give dawah in a way that is going to change the society. We have a lot going on now. And it doesn't help that we're fighting each other. Why is it, AbdulWahid, that you and I get along so well? Why?
Yeah.
If we were to disagree about something, it's not going to lead to enmity and animosity. But then there's another person who will see me sitting here and smoke is coming out of his nose. And you know how the bull does like this? He that's his condition. He wants to come and ram me with his horns. And he makes dua, oh Allah, break his back. Yeah. My back, man.
It's a bit harsh now.
Brother, you want to break my back? I'm a father. I got to get out there and work and hustle and grind, man. I got to carry my suitcases on the airplane when I leave. You want my back to be broke? He says, Allahumma na'am wallahi rabbil Kaaba. Why?
Sometimes you wonder, because you think about who's going to benefit from something like that apart from the disbelievers. You start to wonder, where's this coming from? If it's a conspiracy theorist in me, I'd be like, you're working for the agents, man. What's going on? You want to harm the dawah. You want to stop people from teaching and learning about the religion. You want to stop people from benefiting from it. You start to question the people's like what they really think about Islam, what they know about Islam. But I think a lot of it is ignorance, and this is the issue. Ignorance. A lot of it's ignorance, taqleed.
I did a lesson the other day in Bradford at a masjid called Lum Lane Al Hadith, and we talked about Al Imam Sufyan ibn Uyayna ibn Hilal ibn Ma'mun al Hilali rahimahullah ta'ala, and a line of poetry. They put it out and then they took it off because I think they're going to edit it. I hope they put it back up. And I hope people get an opportunity to listen to that. Because as you just said, that reminded me of that talk, that people who say, deviant, don't work together. Brother, in the Quran and the Sunnah, we find Allah telling us to work together. On al-birr wa taqwa. But who wants to be responsible to carry the heaviness of the dawah by himself? Who? What right-minded person? Who wants to? You are here at Medina College. You want people to help you run this college. Right. You don't want to be the only one doing this all by yourself. Allah mentioned in the Quran, "Sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila." We're going to give you a heavy word, the Quran. Inni tarikum fikum thaqalain. I'm going to leave you with two heavy things. Rasulullah mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lo anzalna hadha al-Quran ala jabalin لَرَأَيْتُهُ خَاشِعًا مُتَصَدِّعًا مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. If we revealed the Quran on a mountain, the mountain would have fell down from the heaviness. And you want to eliminate from the playing field everybody except you and your homeboys, or just you? It's Junoon, brother. It's Junoon.
Mas'uliyah is big. I don't know what they're thinking. It doesn't make sense.
It's big, Akhi.
It's huge,
I have children, sons, 35, 34, 32, 30. I want them cats to help me to take care of the Thahabi clan. their brothers, their sisters, their nephews and nieces, my grandkids. It's heavy, brother, carrying the name of Dhahabi. Help me out. No, I don't want them. I'm going to cut off all my babies, all my kids. Who does that?
Shaykh Abu Usamah, it's been such an honor, and I don't think it's going to be the last time, inshallah. Hopefully not. Hopefully, inshallah, what's for you in America? Where you going? What you're doing, so people can know.
Inshallah, I'm going to go to Florida, and I expect not to have the exposure that I'm having here in the UK.
Okay.
I appreciate all of the love and the support that I got from everybody in the UK, alhamdulillah. But I'm going to go there. It's a new chapter, inshallah. And I don't want to say I'm going to reinvent myself, but it's time to make, some changes in the way that I'm making dawah, because I'm 61 years old now and things have to change. Looking into the future, inshallah. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to give us all the tawfiq to continue to help carry this religion bi-idhnillah Azza wa Jalla.
Barakallahu feekum, jazakallah
Feekum, barakallahu.
On behalf of myself and obviously of the many communities that you've benefited, I want to say a big thank you. Meaning it, obviously, I've benefited from you, my family's benefited from you, so many other people. Barakallahu feekum, jazakallah.
I benefit from you. And my family benefit from you. The Black Panther here right now. I told him when he sees you, give you a lot of love. But I don't know if he saw it. Oh, yeah, he did see you. He's always acting up. From the bottom of my heart, I say to you, Jazakallahu khair ya akhi ya AbdulWahid. And as I mentioned before, I'm not into the business of blowing smoke in people's ears, anything like that. But you're definitely the thing I'm going to miss the most about the UK and my dawah, going to Hajj and Umrah and giving dawah there. Secondly, the top tier brothers that I got to know. I know a lot of people, but they're a top tier group of brothers. And you're one of them cats that from the time that I met you until this day, you're like my junior brother that I got none but love for you. So may Allah protect you and everything like that.
Jazakallah khairan. Thanks very much.
And we want to thank brother Abu Mu'adh Zakaria behind the screen because he's responsible too. You got to get in where you fit in for the dawah. So he's not behind the mic, in front of the camera, but what he's doing is important. Everybody has to do his job, man. And this way, inshallah, al-Islam, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is going to be the future, inshallah. So thanks a lot, Zakaria.
Barakallahu fikum. He's going to want to cut that out, but he can't, because this is going to be the last thing I say, and I'm going to make sure I mention also that thank you very much, Zakaria, for all the hard work. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakallah khair. Inshallah, look forward to the next time. And that's it for today's episode of
وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah bless you, man.
جزاك الله خير.